Hello all! For the holidays, I got a Raspberry Pi 4 from Canakit. This includes the Raspberry Pi 4 starter kit with 32GB EVO+, the premium black case, and the 4GB RAM. Let's dive into the contents. You can see here I have just unpacked the contents, so let's just take a quick look at what's at the table. Let's go into individual contents. So here, we have a Raspberry Pi 4 Model B with 1.5 GHz, 64-bit quad-core ARM-B version 8 CPU with 4GB RAM. So pretty amazing. This is just like the core of our project. The inside of the case just looks like a motherboard with some ports and other things. Just a quick close-up of the motherboard Model B. The next one is a 3.5A USB-C power supply with noise filter, and it's UL listed, specifically designed for the Raspberry Pi, which is a 4-foot cable. This connects our power source to the Raspberry Pi, so it is extremely essential. This is what the cable looks like. Next, we have our fan, which helps a lot when cooling the running Raspberry Pi. I'll discuss in detail later on how and where to install the fan. Here's a close-up picture of the fan. Next, we have the micro HDMI to HDMI cable, which is 6 feet long. This basically connects the Pi to the monitor or bigger display so we can see it. The micro HDMI connects to the HDMI 0 on the Raspberry Pi, and the bigger one connects to a TV or a monitor. Next, we have one of the most important yet tiny pieces, the Samsung EVO micro SD card, which contains 32GB. This kickstarts our Pi and is extremely important. Without this tiny chip, our Pi wouldn't work. Here is a close-up of the chip. We have a quick start guide from Canakit, and it comes really handy in troubleshooting scenarios. We also have a premium black case and separates into 3 pieces: the cover, the body, and the bottom. You'll learn how to separate these later on. We also have an on-off switch. If your kit does not come with one of these, it's perfectly fine as well. Here's a zoomed-in version of the on-off switch. A couple of heat sinks to prevent overheating, and I'll show you where each one of these goes. And finally, we have a micro SD card reader. So now, let's get started with the assembly. So here we have our motherboard and the 3 heat sinks. Let's take the biggest one, and as you can see, there's a blue covering on it, so let's peel it off. So it's freshly peeled, and let's keep it on the silver thing called the main processor. Make sure the heatsink is right in the middle of that main processor so it's able to effectively help the Raspberry Pi in the cooling system. Next, take the middle one and do the same. This one goes on the DDR4 memory, and make sure you do the same with the other one and place it right in the middle of the rectangular DDR4 memory. Just making sure it's nicely pasted in the middle. And finally, you can take the small one and peel off the blue stuff. So this one goes on the USB controller chip. It is slightly down from where the other 2 heatsinks are, and make sure you do the same and paste it right in the middle of that square. Now let's move on onto the fan installation. So as you can see, the fan has a red and black wire. This part in the process for installation is actually fairly simple, and all it requires is just to place the correct pins onto the correct fan wires. So as you can see, the top row, we just need to put the red pin on the top row's second pin. So I'm going to demonstrate visually how to and where to exactly put these the fan pins. So you can see in the top row, we put it on the second pin, and this is the red wire. Then the black one just goes right beside it on the top row, third pin. And make sure the fan wires are nicely attached to the pins. And there you go, you've just installed the fan. So you can see we have the black premium case. We're just going to take this apart into the 3 parts we said earlier. So there we go. We have the 3 base parts. We want to take the bottom one of those parts and the motherboard we built earlier. And the easiest way to attach these 2 together is, if you can see this part on the motherboard, and you can see this hole in the bottom cage, you can just align those 2 up like so, and that'll actually give room for the micro SD card we're going to slide in later on. Now I'm just going to take the bottom, and to fit these over the 3 ports, there's going to be 3 hole ports, and you just need to slide that on. It's going to click. And finally, you just take the cover and the fan, and what you actually do is you attach the fan to the cover so that it does not overheat and does not fall. And that's how you would attach the fan and the cover. And then you just simply close the lid with the Raspberry Pi. It has to face a certain direction or it won't close, but that's mainly it. There you go. You've just built a premium case for the Raspberry Pi. So here we have the Raspberry Pi inside of the premium black case that we have just built. Let's flip that over onto the back, and let's grab our Samsung EVO 32GB card. And we can see this golden side, and we wanted to actually slide the Samsung EVO facing up, or the golden side inside of the Raspberry Pi. So we just slide it right into that tiny port, and this is the center of all our information. And now our Raspberry Pi is officially online and booting, but we just need to attach this to an HDMI TV and add the power supply so it turns on. I'm gonna grab the HDMI, the micro HDMI to HDMI cable like we did earlier, and just unwrap those wires around it. So I'm done unwrapping. That took quite a while, but that's okay. I'm going to take off the micro HDMI side and plug it into HDMI 0, not HDMI 1, or else it will display a rainbow screen when you do it to the monitor. So it's very important you do HDMI 0 to make sure it's in that port. Now I'm going to grab the on-off switch. It's fine if you don't have this. You can directly plug in the USB to C power supply, but I'm just going to take off the cover on that and plug it into the USB-C power option. And now I'm just going to grab the USB-C power and plug that on to the on-off switch. You can do it directly if you don't have the on-off switch, but I do, so I'm just doing this right now. And there you go. And you've officially built your Raspberry Pi 4. And that's it. Now all you have to do is just to attach the HDMI cable to a monitor or a TV, and the USB-C power supply just to a power or outlet. That's all you have to do, and your Raspberry Pi should boot on the monitor or the TV. Thanks for watching, and please share, like, and subscribe.